We'll conclude our study of automatic painting with the mirror painting tool. You can engage it, turn it on or off in the property bar. By default, there is a single vertical plane, and when you make a mark with a brush variant, here I'm using grainy calligraphy, that mark is duplicated on the other side of the plane. You do have a choice between vertical and horizontal, or in this case, both. With both vertical and horizontal planes, I can make a stroke and it's repeated in all 4 segments. If you'd like to have more than 4 segments, you'll choose the Kaleidoscope variation, which will give you a minimum of 3 segments, and that's really 6 because you're counting 3 on either side of the vertical. Let's see what happens when we make a mark with 6 segments. So back to the brush tool, and here we go. Let's see what happens when we increase to 7, which is really 14 segments, and switch to another tool. Let's use the gradient pen, and I have a couple of gradients available in the Kaleidoscope custom palette. Now I am seeing multiple strokes duplicated very quickly in large numbers because of the number of segments. Let's use Pattern Pen Masked and choose one of these patterns, silver tubing. And we don't need to choose a color because that's automatically coming from the pattern library. Now, we are not restricted to radial symmetry. You can move the center of your painting by simply dragging that center to another position. You can also change its angle with this slider. So now with this new position, let's create some more strokes. Let's use gradient pen once again, but use vivid mixture. So now when I make strokes, I have a new center. Let's use gouache rake jitter with red, and now I am seeing rake strokes created around my new center. I also have special effects brushes. This is glow, and when I make a stroke, that is going to brighten my image. If I use pinch, that is going to create a distortion where I drag the variant. And I also have some blenders. Here's a real blender tapered from the blenders category, so I can create some smears here. And I can also create a smear with an impasto look that is from our impasto category of brushes. So we're getting some very interesting effects here using a variety of items from the Kaleidoscope custom palette. Let me spray some things with the image hose, and I have petals and glass pebbles, but you can also get another nozzle from your library of nozzles. I'll use glass pebbles, and now when I make a stroke, I'm seeing some chaos because each of the segments is not going to be exactly like the others due to the nature of the spray in the image hose. That is also true of the Sargent Super Jitter brush, and I'll just turn that to another color. With Sargent Super Jitter, you do also get a good amount of chaos. So let's see what happens if we make some kaleidoscope effects with particle brushes. I'll collapse the Kaleidoscope custom palette and expand the particles stroke palette. I'd also like to work with a black canvas, so I'm just going to clear this one and fill it with black. So I'll choose black from my color picker and fill with current color. I think I'd also like to make that color of the lines a little bit less prominent, so closer to black. That should work nicely. I am going to use some particle strokes, and it would be nice to see my particle strokes general controls, which I now have available because I pressed the Advanced Brush Controls feature. Flow fur, then. Let's make a stroke with that, a lighter color. So there we have some flow fur coming out from our center. Let's change to the flow water effects, and I'll switch to a blue and now make some strokes with flow water effects. I'll move on to Flow Map Dancer, and notice that Flow Map Dancer without chaos can give us some interesting effects based on the flow map. So again, it's not going to be perfectly symmetrical. go now to the gravity bristle, and gravity bristle is very symmetrical until we add some chaos, and then we see a great deal of variation around the center. Let's see what happens with Gravity Deco Streamline, and I'll change color once again. Quite a bit of chaos added, looks like that. Undo it, and I'm going to reduce chaos to 0 and make another color change, and now we see perfect symmetry. So you can really get some interesting effects using the particles brushes as well as other brush variants in Painter.